everybody. It is time for our top 10 of 2021. I have to honestly say this year was a little bit better in the outside world, but also equally as good when it came to music. What would you say, Tyler?
Honestly, it was a very eye-opening year because it kind of exposed me to more stuff that I wasn't exactly comfortable with. But it was definitely a fun ride, and I definitely have a few more things I'm definitely going to add to my physical collection in the next coming weeks.
Then with that, we're going to get into Tyler's top 10 albums of 2021. What is your number 10?
Andrew WK, God is Partying. My only prior experience was on a kid's TV show where he literally blew shit up at the end. So getting into his music was definitely interesting. And there's not a week or a few weeks that go by that I listened to that one song, Everybody Sins, at least once or twice, just because it's such a badass song. And especially that one part in the album where he just kind of talks about like the real world for a moment. It's like, yeah, thank you. I like sometimes when you stop and listen to that, I'm like, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a great album, if I remember correctly, but there were moments on there and I'm like, I still kind of bopped to it. So why not?
All right. What's number 9?
21 Pilots, Scaled and Icy.
Okay.
Putting it on the list was a tough call for me because there were only like 3 or 4 songs I liked, but they were good songs that keep popping up in my shuffle, especially Outside and Mulberry Street.
So it grew on you, you're saying?
A little bit. Those songs definitely grew on me, and I can't complain too much about it.
All right. The number 8 album is?
Silk Sonic, An Evening with Silk Sonic.
Okay. I didn't know you liked that album that much.
I really didn't think I did either. And then I went back through it. It's probably one of the funkier albums we've talked about, but this one's a little more condensed, especially Bootsy Collins, just adding to that layer of funk, especially the song Fly As Me. It's just all I can think about is like the Motown stuff. It's just like, oh, it's so good.
It's nostalgia for your asses. All right. What's number 7?
Garbage's No Gods, No Masters. It was just a blast to listen to. And I stand by that this is one of those albums you listen to like during the summer when you're driving around your car, the windows are down. You just be like, you know what? I want to be that playing loud music today. Let's do it.
Now, my question for you is, since this was your first time hearing Garbage, are you going to go back through their discography to their 90s stuff?
I'm definitely going to try. Like I love Godhead just because the first opening lyric is, if I had a...
Yeah, the album is very female driven, being that Shirley Manson is a girl. She is talking about the women's perspective in this modern times.
Yeah, and then there's the other song, A Woman Destroyed, which just how it has like very giallo-ish kind of feels, and giallo is like a subgenre of horror movies that I enjoy very much. It's just such a decent album, and I just love putting it on from time to time.
What's number 6?
Beartooth, Below.
I am not surprised that I converted another person to this band.
Just that heavy tone matched with like the iconography and the symbolism of hell and everything throughout this album is like, I don't know. I like that kind of imagery and like heavier stuff like that, but not like Amon Amarth levels of deep, in the vocals. Devastation is just super fucking energized. I love Dominate being the heaviest thing on the album. And then, of course, just opening with Below, which sounds straight from a Doom game, which fucking slaps, dude.
Here we are halfway. What is your number 5?
Teenage Bottle Rocket, Success.
Really? Pop punk? I was not expecting that from you.
Like, I put this one a little higher because it's like listening to it brings me back to like 2005, 2006, just listening to like Green Day's latest thing on the radio, and it just brings me back to a place and time in my life where like, I didn't exactly have a developed taste in music yet, and I was still kind of learning. And not to mention Teenage Bottle Rocket sounds like they're straight out of 2002, but otherwise Ghost Story, Strung Out on Stress, and I love Guerrilla Warfare. The song, not the actual battle tactic.
Number 4.
I'm gonna get crap for this one. Rob Zombie, Lunar Injection, Kool-Aid Eclipse Conspiracy.
Huh. Now, as a Rob Zombie enthusiast as yourself, I am not surprised this made the list.
It grew on me. I still have the issue that there's 7 songs that are just filler, but the ones that are there are definitely his style, and it's nice to hear, especially since we had to wait like 5 years to hear the new album. But I mean, you still got those slow, heavier stuff that he's known for, like Boom Boom Boom, Shake Your Ass, Smoke Your Grass. And then you got
Mhm.
stuff like more horror centric, like Shadow the Cemetery Man. And I think you agreed with me that 18th Century Cannibals, I'm not saying the full title because that.
Okay.
It kind of gave us what he would do if he did like Nightmare Country music.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think he could have gotten away with it. It's not a bad album, but it definitely takes time to grow on you.
It's like a fungus. You see it there, and
Yeah.
you decide to accept it or not. Number 3.
Foo Fighters, Medicine at Midnight. So this was probably like my first real introduction to them. And it was just a stellar way to start off. I think I
Mhm.
mentioned that the only song prior to that was Hero. And I was just blown away by this. Maybe it's just that pop undertone with that classic kind of rocking vibe.
Some of the songs have like a new wave
Mhm.
vibe to it. I was getting this Talking Heads vibes from a particular song on the album, I recall.
It actually became quickly one of my favorite albums of the year, even
Mhm.
though it came out in February. So, like Making a Fire, I was really surprised at how quickly they used it in a car commercial. uh,
Advertising sometimes does work on you, huh?
yeah.
I should buy an Audi right now.
Shame, Shame. It's got that desert rock kind of sound to it. Cloud Spotter, Medicine at Midnight, No Son of Mine. Just such a good lineup of songs. Just a solid album.
Coming in number 2 is
Dropkick Murphys, Turn Up That Dial. There's rarely been an album where I've got such a kick and enjoyed so much out of each song on the album. And this is one of those rare instances. I don't know if it's just my taking music or it just sounds like Irish pub music. It's not a bad thing. I just like the blunt nature of their songs against like very beautiful, traditionally like Irish sounding music. It's a contrast that works. And if it works, go for it.
This is exactly what I want from a Dropkick Murphys album. I know that usually I can only take this at a particular time of the year when it comes to this band, but this is what they're about. 10
Yeah.
songs, I believe. They're in and
Yeah.
out, and it's really fun.
Turn Up That Dial, Middle Finger, Happy Birthday, Motherfucker.
Mhm.
The Chosen Few, even though it's like a rehash of an older version, it's still good. I'll try and belt out to it when I can. I haven't had something that enjoyable in a long time, like front to back.
All right, and now we come down to what is Tyler's favorite album of 2021. Number 1 is
Van Weezer.
Weezer. Okay.
Yes, that was the album they took a lot of inspiration for like older stuff like Black Sabbath and Van Halen and all that and reincorporated into their music.
Hence the name. Yeah.
Yeah, it just really it seemed logical to me because there isn't a day that I'm not driving around just chilling in my house listening to music and one of the songs from this album will come on. I'm like, I'll start humming along to it, and it's just it ended up in like my summertime playlist a lot. I really need one more hit, and of course, you know all the good ones. End of the Game. I need some of that, and Blue Dream, just to name a few.
Okay. What I did for my list is obviously I went from albums I listened to kind of the least to ones I listen to the most, but also the artist is doing something that was more creative and pushing some boundaries as we get close to my number 1. So here we go. Coming in at number 10 is the band Shame with their album Drunk Tank Pink. Now, this is a band that is doing that kind of like 70s nostalgic post-punk sound that you hear from groups like Gang of Four or like Wire, but these guys are actually British, so it comes off more authentic. The songs are really energetic and chaotic and got that English punk element to it, as well as like that garage rock sound. The lyrics are like really quirky and really introspective at the same time. Some of the standout tracks I recall was like the first song, Alphabet, Snow Day, and Great Dog. Of course, other ones as well. Coming in at number 9, another group that is, I would say, like kind of like regurgitating, not in a bad way, like an older sound, is the band Catbite with their album Nice One. Now, this is a Philadelphia 4-piece ska band, but they are taking like the rootsy, rocksteady approach to that ska sound. However, they are also blending in like this raw garage rock guitar, a little bit of like punk rock. The lead singer and keyboardist as well, her name is Britt Luna. She's got this really commanding high octane vocals. So you definitely can hear on this album, they have this like second wave ska influence with bands like the Selectors, or going to the East Coast. You got bands like the Toasters or like the Slacker. A lot of bands that are playing ska begin like the name with the word "the" for some reason. But one group that I hear a comparison to, not obviously besides No Doubt in a way, is another band that's like probably the biggest modern ska band nowadays, which is saying something, is the Interrupters, who's also female led. So put this album on, you'll be skanking and singing along to like some of the songs like Asinine Aesthetic, Not Your Baby, or even the cover of Selena's Bitty Bitty Bum Bum. I don't remember you hearing that one, Tyler.
Yeah.
So let's go to an album that I do remember you reviewing with us. Number 8 is J. Cole with his album, The Off Season. So when it comes to J. Cole, it's been a while since I heard an album by him that I thought was really impressive. So with this, he finally came through with it. Now, I would say this album is not on the perfect level as the 2014 Forest Hills Drive album, but, you know, on this album, you got like jazzy R&B vibes from the track My Life. You got like the 90s-esque like New York beat on that song, Applying Pressure. And in that opening song with those triumphant horns where he's like bragging, it was called 95 South. Like all those songs make the album a worthy addition to his discography. But still, my favorite song on the album is Pride is the Devil. Coming in number 7, got Rise Against with their album Nowhere Generation. So Rise Against on this album is doing what Rise Against does with their melodic hardcore sound that they do with the social commentary from singer Tim's lyrics. But I think this album, they sound more urgent and more aggressive. And of course, the songs are like angry and catchy, but there's like this emotional reflection that's happening I was hearing. So are you like into Rise Against at all?
Yeah, I like Rise Against because they're one of those bands that like, yeah, I remember Rise Against. Like I remember hearing a few of their songs. I'm like, what do they sing again?
Yeah. It's one of those cases where maybe this album might not have legs, but for 2021, it really left an impression on me. And as usual, when it comes to Rise Against, they always throw that one acoustic song in the mix. And this time around, they have the song called Forfeit. It's got really romantic lyrics, and Tim's really belting out on the hook. I will not give up. And like when the acoustic guitar is really strumming those chords, it really hits hard. Continuing on this genre of hardcore music, got number 6 from Turnstile with the album Glow On. Now, man, talk about sleeping on a band, dude. We totally slept in this group because we didn't get a chance to review them. And I never heard them before. It was one of the reasons. But then when I found out that their fans were literally shitting themselves at that one concert, I said, I got to find out what these guys are all about. And I am so happy that that story broke. This Baltimore band is doing hardcore music, but they are adding a different spin to it to the point where I want to call them euphoric hardcore. What I mean by that is they're doing like the melodic punk rock, but they're adding dream pop music to it. They're adding like dance rock and also 90s alternative all in the mix. So you're probably asking, what does that even sound like? So they sound like the 90s hardcore bands like Shelter and like Warzone, but they're also like put this pop sensibility in there and like the shoegazy grunge rock. Like the one song on the album called Alien Love Call, the singer sounds literally like Sting. And so it's basically like you're hearing hardcore music, and then all of a sudden you're listening to like a Police song because it's like they're doing like, kind of like reggae stuff on that song. But then also you get songs like New Heart Design and Humanoid Shake It Up, where it has the eclectic vibe of a Bad Brain song, and that is high praise. So these guys are doing something unique with the genre, and it is a really good breath of fresh air. All right, coming in at number 5, got Every Time I Die with their album Radical. And, of course, what you expect from Every Time I Die, intense metalcore from this Buffalo, New York vibe piece. And I thought their last album, which was called Low Teens, was okay. But this album grabbed me on the first listen because you got the songs like Dark Distance and A Colossal Wreck have such pessimistic outlook in their lyrics, sung by singer Keith Buckley. And he perfectly conveys that vibe throughout with his constant shouting. I love the band's unique take on the genre as well. Like, it's just a lot of noise throughout, but they also do like different songs with their not so metal song on the album, which is more like a modern rock song. The song called Thing with Feathers, I thought is a great example of them like trying different things, but not being so stagnant with the sound at the same time. All right, coming in number 4, an album that I'm pretty sure you do remember, is Teddy Gray with the album The Great Failed Romances of the 20th Century. Let me ask you this, my friend. How many double albums have you heard where you said, you know, if they cut like a third of the songs off, this album would be perfect? Probably dozens, right?
This one. I can't think of any other double albums I've listened to.
Let me ask you this. How many artists do a double album for their debut studio record? That is ballsy. And that's exactly what this Brooklyn indie rock artist miraculously pulled off, in my opinion. Because this album is like a conceptual 80-plus minute album that retells some known and unknown celebrity breakups that occurred in the 1900s. He sings about famous relationships that we've all heard before, like Sid and Nancy or Ike and Tina. But he also talks about these obscure affairs like Barry Williams and Florence Henderson, or Vanilla Ice and Madonna, which still blows my mind.
Ugh.
All on this 30-track magnum opus. It's got a good mix of folk rock, indie pop, 70s soul, and more of those driving, clever lyrics that he has, poetic rhyme scheme, and those several featured singers and musicians. So I'm just saying, everyone, if you haven't heard of this guy, because he's pretty underground right now, definitely give this album a listen, so that at least you could be the one that says that generic statement, I was listening to him before it was cool.
Oh, the hipster route. Okay.
Get on that hipster train before it's too late. All right. Coming in at number 3, got No Effects with Single Album. Now, I was surprised to hear that a lot of critics are putting this album on their most disappointed or worst of list. And I think the reason is a lot of people that listen to this band from back in the day prefer when they play their 90s skate punk sound. Of course, I'm one of those people that would prefer that. But these same people are allowing this band to do what they currently have been doing, is playing that basic take on 80s hardcore, whether it's just easy or they're just being too nostalgic, I don't know. To the point where they were praising that last album that they put out in 2016 called First Ditch Effort, where I said the best thing about that album was how Fat Mike was very personal with his lyrics,
right?
Which he does on this album. He talks about his drug use, all his kinks and stuff like that. But I found that the music on this one was more experimental. The best example is that opening track, The Big Drag, which is like almost 6 minutes long with all these different odd time signatures going on throughout. But you still get the usual No Effects sound with the tracks like I Love You More Than I Hate Me or Grieve Soto. But what I'm saying is the band is pushing their musicianship on like songs like Birmingham or the last song, Your Last Resort, without like straying too far from the punk sound. It seems to me like when Fat Mike writes music while sober, it comes off more genuine and focused. I'm actually excited to hear the next part of this project because I know there's another part to it coming up. So another album I'm hoping for a sequel makes my number 2 spot. And that is Converge and Chelsea Wolfe with the album Blood Moon 1. What a beautiful marriage of their sounds. You got Converge with their signature metalcore. You got Chelsea's like gothic rock style. They mesh just together and it fits perfectly. It's like a gothic doom metal core hybrid that is dense and eclectic at the same time. Practically every track is full of sludgy riffs, haunting lyrics, and an eerie mood complemented by Jacob Bannon and Chelsea's vocals. I recommend when you listen to this album, listen to it with headphones on, read the lyrics along to it so you can submerge yourself in the evil. Where am I going to go with my number 1? I've been pretty all over the place, right? So number 1 album of 2021 to me is Tyler, the Creator, with the album Call Me If You Get Lost. And this guy is doing everything I like in the hip hop genre, whether he's doing jazz rap or alternative hip hop or even horrorcore. and I love it. The last album he put out, Igor, I wasn't too crazy about because it was more contemporary R&B. But I respect the fact that he wants to do something different on every album. So this album is very structured, but it's also pretty chaotic at the same time. And my guest example is that second track, which is called Corso. It's like hard hitting beats. He's got like this like ear piano keys. It's like stopping and starting, creative production, violins are coming in here and there. I think at that point, you have to ask yourself, you know, am I with this or not? This whole scatterbrain production and rhyming, because then the next track, Lemonhead, it's even crazier. So it's just like, what am I getting into if it's your first time? And what I like about the album a lot is that romantic narrative that he's posting throughout. It's sprinkled throughout the album where he hints on it once in a while on different songs until finally he explains the whole situation on that lengthy track, Wilshire. So this album has so many layers and vibes. I think like I had a different experience hearing it every time. I'll pick up on different sounds or different lyrics. So it's always a new experience for me hearing the album. And that is my top 10 of 2021. So let us know what some of your favorite albums for 2021. And hopefully 2022 is just as great.
Like and subscribe, folks.